Yeah.
No, they're
No,
not.
don't record it yet.
So one can only pause for testimony. We'll see. I'll go around to our forms, but can someone say we have for June at least? Yeah. She'd like to just put in. Oh yeah, you can type. Wait, I'm recording is already in progress.
It's gonna break your address. And this is before.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, before we get into it, because they're supposed to call for testimony, yeah.
Yeah.
That's in the script, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hanoi.
Are we ready, team?
Yeah.
Well, aloha mai kako. At this moment, Chair calls the meeting to order. The Puna Action Committee meeting will now come to order. It is Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, and at the time it is 5:05 p.m. Hopefully that's what we all got. This meeting is held in person and by interactive conference technology. The meeting will also be recorded on Zoom. As a reminder, per Sunshine Law, AC members appearing remotely must keep their cameras on and announce anyone who is with them except for minors in their location. At this time, we'll go ahead and move forward with roll call and introductions. Vice Chair Lei DeMello.
Aloha kako. It's just me.
Committee member Leila Kealoha. I don't think here today. Yeah, okay. Committee member Suzanne Osborne.
Aloha, Susan Osborne, present and alone in the room. Thank you.
Mahalo. Committee member Franny Brewer. She might be. She's not there yet, or not. Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, are you here? Okay, call up my can't hear you.
Person here in Pahoa.
Mahalo. Committee member Martha Morshige.
I'm here also at the Pahoa Community Center.
Kind of not picking up. The owl's not picking up.
Committee member Jennifer Sheffel.
I'm here. I am alone in my room, but there are other adults, but they're outside.
And committee member Gregory Henkel.
I'm here. I'm at home alone in my room.
And I'm Chair Kanoe Wilson. I am located at my office in Kipimana in Kea'au, and I am here alone as well. All right, and then also with us, we have our planning department staff. Is that April, Natasha, Janice, Cavello, and Jessica? Mahalo to the staff for supporting our Puna AC. Just a little housekeeping. Please make sure your cell phones are turned off or on silent mode. If there's anyone who would like to testify, and I did see a note there, please fill out the sign-up form and give it to our staff. Zoom testifiers can send a message in the chat to the Zoom host indicating which item they wish to testify on. We ask that everyone please state your name before speaking. To all of us who are attending here in person, or to everyone who's attending in person, please remember to speak toward the owl camera or microphone so everyone on Zoom can hear you. All right, at this time, I will move to our second item, which is approval of the minutes. And so the time is 5:08 p.m. and committee will now consider approving the draft minutes from the August 8th, 2024 meeting. Can I ask for a motion to approve the August 8th, 2024 meeting minutes as circulated?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
So motion by Susie Osborne, second by Gregory Henkel.
Alamai. The draft ones don't have names missing. Is that the latest packet that I saw, or? It says where the, I'm so sorry, Kako, approval of minutes,
This is the one we didn't.
for the June 6th one, it doesn't have the name of who made the motion and who second.
So that was because the meeting report, the names are missing from. The names are missing from the August meeting minutes because that was the meeting that wasn't recorded on Zoom. So we weren't able to capture the names of the committee members. So we might just have to revise that and take that because we don't have that information. Do you folks remember the members who approved and seconded?
I believe I seconded.
I'm really having a hard time hearing that, the folks in person. There seems to be a lot of reverberation.
Susie, is it better if we don't use the microphone?
That sounds really clear as a bell.
All right. There you go. Everybody's just gonna have to yell. Find your inner teacher voice.
Okay.
So Janice, which motion is that they're asking about
For approving the minutes.
for approving the minutes
The previous.
at the previous meeting?
Yeah.
So does anyone recall who might have made the motion? It sounds like Jen did a second. Do you know who might have?
I think it was Layla.
There we go. Okay, great. Okay, great. Is there another motion that needs filling in? Okay. So we have the motion by Layla and the second by Jen and inserted into the, okay.
Yeah, we can make those corrections. Are there any other corrections? Okay,
Go ahead, Chair.
Thank you so much. So with that, can the motion stand then in regards to the approval of the minutes now that we do have the corrections, or do we have to amend?
It's cleaner if you do an amendment. So whoever made the motion, Susie, I think that was you. If you could just include
I make a
the-
motion to approve the amended minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. And so because the motion did, sorry, no, that is unanimous. Do we have to call for a roll call vote?
Not for the minutes, no.
Okay, great. So motion carries with voting in favor for approval of the minutes. All right, so we'll go ahead and move to the next agenda item, which is public testimony. The time is 5:12 p.m. Committee will now call for statements from the public as stated in published agenda. Members of the public may provide public testimony regarding any agenda item now or at the time the agenda item is called to order. If there is anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the sign-up form, front table, and give it to our staff. I believe we do have someone. Is that Virginia?
Yes. Hi, Virginia, you can come towards the front here and we need to hear you through this.
Good afternoon. This is testimony to the Community Development Plan Action Committee in regard to neighbors proposed multi-purpose community complex on 36th Avenue. Susie, are you getting it or not? You don't know that they can't hear. audience can hear you.
Yeah.
Maybe try with the mic.
Well, then you need to block them.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, it's sounding kind of garbled on our end.
Sorry, is this better? Is this better? Can you hear now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to testify to the committee about infrastructure needs in Puna. That is the overall topic. The premise of the Puna Community Development Plan was the vision of villages within subdivisions to make available some of the goods and services of everyday life. This would be convenient, save fuel and time, and reduce traffic on Highway 130, especially between Pahoa and Keao. Build out for 75,000 lots in Puna, calculated at 3 individuals per parcel on average, is approximately 225,000 people. The number of occupied lots is increasing daily, adding at least 1 vehicle per family per household. The population of the Puna district has increased about 10% per year, regardless of flood, recession, lava flow, or other incidents. The creation of small business and service centers within subdivisions off the highway would ease congestion and benefit all of our communities. Infrastructure is needed to make that happen. A business center was created in Orchid Land, since it was already apparent that Orchid Land subdivision was a central location for traffic from at least a dozen other subdivisions, as well as from Keao and Hilo. The demand for groceries, gas, hardware, and restaurant accommodations was high. Traffic congestion was and is present at this business center, which also includes a church. Orchid Land Neighbors operates a food basket at the church location, right almost adjacent to Highway 130, because there is no other site available. There also is no emergency shelter available in Orchid Land. On the positive side, Orchid Land subdivision is located in Lava Zone 3. The village center designated in the Puna plan is about 2 miles Malka of the existing center on Orchid Land Drive. Orchid Land Community Association has a 4-acre parcel. Orchid Land Community Association has a 2-acre parcel at 36th Avenue. Post office boxes are located at that place. Orchid Land Neighbors, a private nonprofit of which I'm president, has a special permit to construct a multi-purpose community complex on a 4-acre site at that location. We need infrastructure planning from the County of Hawaii to realize the village center concept indicated in the Puna plan and to serve Orchid Land and other communities. The water line coming off Highway 130 does not extend to the Orchid Land Community Association lot or to the proposed site of the Orchid Land Neighbors Community Center. Extending the water line up Orchid Land Drive could also provide fire protection. I am requesting this committee to recommend, as part of the infrastructure planning for Orchid Land subdivision, the extension of a water line from the business center at least to 36th Avenue in order to fulfill the vision of a town center within the subdivision and to provide the beginning of a secure water supply for Orchid Land residents. Thank you for your kind attention. That's it. I would also request that we be put on the agenda for your next meeting so that you can hear from some of the people from Orchid Land who would like to see a water line added to the infrastructure in place. Thank you.
Mahalo, Virginia.
Thank you.
Committee Member Henkel.
Yes, thank you, Virginia, for that. Concerning the water, there is a need, but I'm wondering if a well, Malka of 36th Street would be a better idea because water just doesn't go uphill. And I don't know what the elevation is at 36 compared to where the water source is now, but I know it's uphill. So I think a well above there might be a more realistic long-term solution. That's just my feelings.
Well, who does the research on that? The Department of Water Supply could be outset.
Yeah, I think that our role would be more about making recommendations to the county that this is an issue that they should look at more than deciding.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the process is for us to talk about that at a later time, if that's a recommendation that we can make.
Yeah, so I'm not looking at your agenda right now, but we have to make sure that any discussion, right now we're in public testimony. So any discussion about this, we need to make sure that it's either on the agenda or just defer it to the next meeting so that we can make sure that it's covered under the agenda. So I'm gonna hand it back over to Chair.
Mahalo, thank you. At this time, I also see that we do have some testifiers on Zoom. So next would be Stephanie Bath testifying on agendas items 1 and 2 and 3. Stephanie, did you want to testify now or did you want to wait until we're already kind of, but it's up to you. Stephanie, are you there? Okay, if not, we'll just move to the next person in person there, Rebecca Melendez.
Yeah.
Did you want to testify now or did you want to wait till after the general plan presentation?
That's fine now, please.
Sure.
That's fine. Yeah. All right. All right, thank you, aloha. I appreciate your time. So I'm here to speak about the general plan. And honestly, this general plan is so vague. The words are so vague. For instance, 2.2 biocultural stewardship, section 1.13, incentive private land management practices that protect and enhance natural resources and values, and when appropriate, pursue the acquisitions of lands for the protection of natural resources. Okay, so this doesn't say anything about whose land. It says private land, but this is so vague. This could be, are you talking about taking away personal private lands? Like, this is too vague. The general plan is way too vague. It needs to be specific because there's a lot of things going on in this world and there's a lot of fear and people need aloha here. We need love. We need communication. This is way too vague. And this could mean that you have the right later to take people's lands away for the protection, for the, to enhance natural resources. And that's not okay. There's also a statement, a sentence, page 34. They must conform. Okay, so those 3 words, they must conform. That should never be in a general plan. What does that mean? I have no idea. What does that mean? They must conform. To me, that's communism. That's not democracy. That's communism. That's not okay to have in the general plan. The general plan needs to be looked at. It needs to be revised in a way that's extremely clear to all of us on what exactly, who has the rights, who is, what in the future. This plan, I read it, and honestly, there is no real plans. This plan is a plan to make plans. That's what I was reading. I never really saw anything that represented really good plans. It was very, very vague. We need to make this plan. We need to make this plan. But it was so vague that to me, it was going to be taking our rights away with the way that things were worded, exactly like 1.13. There's also in page, let me see here, 112, table 30, public access spacing standards, mountain for all zone districts as determined by the director
to provide reasonable means to access public trail sections. Okay, so to me, this is saying that the director is gonna have to provide reasonable, so the director is going to have the rights to change, to make trails and things like that such. Now, that to me should go to the county council. That shouldn't be, we should never give the director, the Hawaii planning director, any more power than he has. To me, some of the wording that I read in this general plan represented to me that this director is trying to take more power for himself. I do not agree with these wordings in this general plan. Nobody should have that much power. It should be to the county council. It should be, to the people. I think a lot of people don't really understand this general plan because there's hardly anybody here. And it's just very, very vague. And this is a huge thing. This is going to change the Big Island in the next few years. We need, yes, I agree with this woman in the past, the resources need to be addressed. I have a petition that has, this on change.org and has almost 5,000 signatures with regards to the fact that Big Island's resources and infrastructures need to be addressed. There are many news articles, and unfortunately, I'm a little nervous. I forgot the name of my petition, but I'm bigislandsupport.com, and it'll be, I have it there. So anyways, I have resources. I have news articles that state that we have water issues. We have, rubbish issues. We're going to need a new landfill in a few years. All of these things are not being regarded in this general plan. We have traffic issues, obviously, as the woman before me mentioned. We have parking issues, and the fact of development. Kamehameha Schools, for instance, wants to build 43 buildings and 150 room units, bungalow resorts in Keauhou Bay. And there's no parking already there. There's already, it's just the fact of the resources, we don't have them on island. We need to, on the petition, it also states how we can easily start to look at addressing these problems. Let's address the problems before we allow more development. Let's address this general plan and make it more clear. Let's not give power to one person. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Can I ask a question of the testifier?
I'm sorry?
I'd like to ask for the name again and the first section she was referring to.
Oh, okay. Yes, the
What is
first,
her name?
Rebecca Melendez.
Rebecca Melinda?
Melendez, MELENDEZ, Rebecca Melendez. So 2.2, biocultural stewardship, goal, objectives, policies, and actions. The section was 1.13. If you'd like, I can read the sentence again.
That'd be good.
Incentive private land management practices that protect and enhance natural resources and values, and when appropriate, pursue the acquisitions. That's the biggest word right there. Which lands are they acquisitioning? Personal lands, acquisitions of lands for the protection of natural resources. And this is only one sentence in the whole general plan. And there are many sentences like this one, very, very vague.
What page was that on?
Michelle, do you know?
41.
41, page 41. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it needs to be more clear. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Because I asked the people, I have a question about the format. Who do I ask? Okay, well, I'm just asking, it wasn't really explained. Are we required when we testify to speak to very specific things in our general testimony? Can somebody explain the format, please?
Generally, you are supposed to be testifying on the question that was announced today. There's also a second. There's also a section of the agenda where you can propose business items for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm here like many people to comment on the general plan. And so am I required to comment on specific sections or?
No, you're not required.
And are there question and answers? Because that's what it proposes here, question and answer during the presentation.
Yes, there are questions and answers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can we move on to the next testimony? And I apologize, everyone. I did fail to mention that there is a 3-minute time limit, just so that we can make sure we get to the general plan presentation that is going to be also happening for agenda item number 1. Next person up we do have for testimony is Michael Tiawana. Sorry.
Good evening, Michael Ivana. And I came here to comment about the general plan. And I'll be in Hilo again next week to comment on the plan. And the general plan has a lot of flowery language in it, sustainability being one of them, conservation another one. And behind that plan, which is going out over the whole country, all the counties have this plan coming in place. It's not really from the people. And it's being thrust upon us. And I just want to say that it came out of the first World Social Forum in 1991 in Rio de Janeiro. Had a lot of people there, including Deepak Chopra, the Dalai Lama, a lot of NGOs. And what they all agreed on is that there's too many people on the planet. And what they would like is for us to move off the land and into the cities to protect the land and save the land. So a lot of the things that are in the general plan are suggesting that. And what was just brought up is if you're not in 1.13, if you're not going by these ways to protect the land, they can acquire the land. And it's about saving the land. But what's happening is, as a farmer, and all the farmers I know, we're kind of being squeezed out. We're being put into a position of poverty. They're raising our taxes. They're raising the hoops that we have to jump through for building codes. And I just want to address the zoning in this county. And that is going to really affect Puna a lot. Most of it is ag land. All these subdivisions are on ag land. So they're raising the taxes. If you don't want them raised as much, they've got a lot of red tape now. And one of them is you have to prove that you're in business, ag business, at least 2,000 a month. Well, a lot of people give their fruit away. They give their food away, but now they have to go into business. So they'll be in competition with each other. And what is really missing is industrial land where you can take the food and put it into shelf stable products. And that's what we need, shelf stable products. And then we can start exporting the food instead of competing with each other. And all these ag lots are all, if they want lower taxes, they're gonna have to come up with some business model that says they're selling at least 2,000 a year, and then it can go up from there. And so I propose that put in the general plan spaces for industry where we can start making our own products. And I've been fighting this on the Hamakua coast for many years. And so far we've been winning. We still have industrial land up there, but you could use some in each of these communities. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next person we have testifying is Stephanie Bath.
Kako, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to start with the business item number 1 regarding the general plan. One of the beauties of the general plan is that it's general, and it identifies goals, objections, actions, policies. So I think that my understanding of it anyway is the CDPs and other elements of it can refine the basic principles and things that are within the plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus today on the biocultural stewardship goal, objective 1. I really like the policies of 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, and 1.6, because currently the county is not enforcing the grubbing and grading ordinances, and specifically in Puna, and it's creating a lot of issues, specifically cutting off people during flooding. And so I think that holding the county accountable through the general plan would be really helpful. I also like 1.15, the impact of any development, to ensuring that no adverse effects on the INA will be done. There are a bunch of things in here, and I won't get into the discussion because I think that'll come up later. Objective 2 addresses runoff and the policies regarding that. Under the actions, I believe that it talks about reviewing and updating the grubbing and grading ordinances. I think that it's important to, as an action, say review, update, and enforce the grubbing and grading ordinances because they're already in place and they're not doing that. I'm going to move on to item number 2, draft of the letter of support for conservation efforts. Puna growth has already exceeded the county's ability to deliver a level of health and safety services to Upper Puna and Lower Puna as well. Parks, open spaces, and places of recreation are included in the category of health and safety, since gathering places and places to exercise are critical for people's physical and mental health. I wanted to cite a concern that I have where the county is allowing developers, and I cite the particular company that's erecting spec homes throughout Ainaloa and HPP. It's a wonderful thing they're doing because they're providing housing for people. However, there is no infrastructure. From another perspective, the county admittedly has said that the developers of the past that were allowed to create substandard subdivisions without having planning or created infrastructure have made a health and safety nightmare for the now and people now. I'd like to move on to item number 3. As I view what's happening in Puna specifically is the county issues of building permits and allowing developers to build as they are, knowing that the roads, the police, the fire, and the ambulance services are not in place to serve the residents. It's somewhat irresponsible and really, frankly, not unlike the developers of the past that did not put the infrastructure in because they're still allowing building to be done. I don't want to come across as overly critical of our leaders. It's just that this is what's happening.
Sorry, Stephanie, I don't mind I'm sorry, I apologize for having to cut you off, but that was 3 minutes for testimony.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you so much. That was
Thank
enough.
you.
Aloha.
Mahalo. And the next person we have is Megan Isaac for testimony.
Aloha, my name is Megan Isaac and I live in downtown Hilo. And it's a pleasure actually to be understanding a little bit more about the committee being at the volunteer level. And I understand that can you hear me all right? I understand that you must put in a lot of hours to patiently listen and consider things. And so I think what's really important is to recognize that and a lot of sincerity that I meet everywhere in people actually all over this island, people who, you know, sincerely think deeply about ways that we could innovate. And unfortunately, that's not a word we see in this plan. There's a lot of sustainability, but there's no mention of innovation. And that's a far better word to hang on to because, of course, innovation requires all of us to be involved and to be creative. Sustainability, as somebody else has pointed out, has become a top-down key code word. And actually, I'm going to go so far as to say it just connotes at this point some kind of communist form of government and control. And I'm not the first person here today to already allude to that. So I'll just get on with what I want to say. First of all, big smoking gun right here is the general plan engagement. I guess it deserves a whole page because we're all supposed to feel like the public's been engaged, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The day of a HELO consultation was when I found out about it. Now, is that on me? Is that bad me because I didn't know about this? It was held at 2 o'clock on a Thursday, which I consider to be a liability back on a county, and I'm going to address the people here who are responsible for delivering this plan, because there was hardly, I wasn't able to attend, and there were hardly any people there. My second point, and it relates to legality, is that there's been no HELO Community Development Committee, and I haven't heard a reasonable explanation of that. It seems like it's such a liability that you would go forward with a plan that has included no HELO community development. And to say that, oh, well, we had one before, or we consulted different groups, that seems grossly inadequate. So I'm going to put that back on Mr. Zendo Kern and say, that's just project management failure. And we should acknowledge that, because the next thing, I don't know how many more minutes I have, but the next thing I'm just going to say is straight up, it's happened to me before and probably to a lot of you. You go to bake a cake and you thought it was sugar, but it was salt. At some point, you're laughing, thank you. At some point, you realize your mistake. Do you keep going? Do you bake the cake? Do you serve it to your guests? I think we all know that's not what we do. We realize we have to start over. And people already in this room have given grounds for the fact that there is no fixing this plan. And it's somewhat insulting to our intelligence that we're expected to come and comment on item by item. And we're told, I've heard this from the people in charge of this plan before, we're told that our comments will be considered and then there'll be edits made. There's no fixing a plan when there are fundamental flaws, and you've already heard what they are. If there's not a sufficient regard for constitutional and legally protected freedoms, then you do not go forward. You just do not proceed. And you've heard this. This isn't the first meeting. This isn't the first time it's being brought up. So I appreciate the aloha coming from a volunteer committee, but I think the answers, the questions we have go far deeper than just one committee. And it goes right back to the question already brought up today, which is, why are we hearing language that comes directly out of United Nations sustainability goals when the United Nations has declared that their objective is one world government? This is not a conspiracy. This is not a theory. It's a published fact. And we need to all take note of that and recognize that if the language showing up in the plan, in fact, does not reflect community concerns, but reflects this kind of code word, I'm going to use the word jargon, but these
Thank you, Megan. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but we have one
You
more.
can cut me off. These buzzwords are contaminating this document. And so I advise you all to proceed with caution. Thank you.
Mahalo. Thank you so much. I apologize. There is one more testifier, I believe, Michelle Melendez.
Hi, aloha. I fourth everything that's been said here today. This plan does need to be scrapped. Absolutely. This is on page 11. Lands designated for acquisition by public agencies for conservation and natural resource protection. This plan is not for the people. It is not aloha at all. If we care about our keki's future, if you care about your keki's future, you do need to scrap this whole thing and start over, because this is a plan that is all over the country. Her name, Rosa Corey, who was a 30-year chief director of transportation in California, actually found this plan before it was implemented, and she went throughout all of the, many of the city councils all across the country, sharing with them that our freedoms will be taken away by the planning department through plans like this, and it will be due to sustainability. Here we go, sustainability, economic growth, environmental protection. That's what you guys have in this plan. Well, when we should have innovation, as Megan had said, innovation, economic alternatives like bartering and trading, which we already have here in Hawaii, and environmental support. The INA she has the power to clean herself if we support her to do that. But what this plan wants to do is it wants to take people's acquire people's land for clustered housing. That's another buzzword, not only in this plan, but I looked up Santa Cruz, California, Chico, California, where I'm from. Both of those city plans have clustered housing and stakeholder. And there was another word, I checked out another one in Phoenix, Arizona. Same exact buzzwords. So you cannot tell us that you guys created this plan when these same exact buzzwords are in city plans around the country. And the word stakeholder, let me just read you guys this one here, which is right below the 113. This is 114, page 41. Partner with government, private and nonprofit agencies, communities, and other stakeholders. Who are these stakeholders? Because the word stakeholder is written 46 times in this general plan, and the word homeowner is written zero times in this plan. I sent an email with the PDF going through the first 46 pages. Actually, we went through, we had 4 of us, and we went through 250 pages of this plan, and we redesigned it. And we told you guys, this is not Pono. And every time we had stakeholder, I said, remove stakeholder and put in homeowners and farmers. You're gonna collaborate with homeowners and farmers, not these stakeholders, not these government agencies, because you guys are like us, like me, like we're aloha, we're ohana here. You need to look at who brought this plan out. Where does it come from? Because this is not Pono and this is not aloha, and this will be the devastation of our keiki. Because what they also want to do is they want to put in buffer zones. They want to take away natural, beautiful land and not allow people to visit it, to be a part of nature, and they want to put in buffer zones. And if you don't think I'm telling the truth, I can actually send you the whole agenda of the United Nations that actually has these exact words in it: buffer zones, stakeholders, clustered housing, acquisition of people's property, all of it. So you do need to start over. So I send you guys so much aloha, as much as I can, and so much inner strength to be the voice of us who see what's happening. And I pray to God that you see what's happening, because this World War III and all the craziness that's happening in the world is happening so they can put this through the planning departments, because people are too busy looking at the ridiculous election BS and all the other things that are happening in the world, and this will take away our freedoms and change this country forever. And I
Thank
just
you,
ask
Michelle.
you to
Sorry.
allow that to happen.
Thank you so much. Mahalo. Yeah, I think at this time that was the last of our testifiers. And so we'll move to business item number 1, the final draft general plan 2045 presentation and Q&A. Do we have the planning staff there?
Yes, we are here.
Okay.
Is it, I can either use this microphone or I can speak really loudly like this. Is one of those better for Zoom? Use the microphone. Okay, excellent. Happy to. So I have just a short presentation for those of you who have watched or attended one of the workshops. This is a very short version of the workshops, and then I thought we could really get into more Q&A. And we're happy to even go onto the website and look at maps or look at other pieces of this, of the plan and try to answer questions in that way. So I will start with, this is probably a 10 or a 15-minute presentation, and then we'll go straight into Q&A. Chair, I'll let you decide if you want to manage Q&A or if you want me to do that. We'll get there in a few minutes, but I'll let you decide how you want to handle it. So let me share screen. I think screen is better. And then give me one moment to. There it goes. There's a little bit of a lag, so I apologize for that. Okay, they're asking for my camera, which means I have to stop sharing. There's my camera. Now I'm going to share again.
Excuse me, what's your name?
I'm sorry, my name is April Serpina. Yeah, thank you. And I have with me Natasha Soriano.
And your title is?
Manager of Long Range Planning for the county.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just to give again, a short synopsis, the purpose of the general plan, and this comes from the existing general plan and previous general plans, is really the overarching land use policy document for the county. But it also covers economic policies, environmental, socio-economic and socio-cultural type well-being for the overall county. And so it covers a lot of different things, and we like to think of it as the umbrella document because it's a high-level policy document that a lot of things fall underneath. And so it's general for a reason because it's the general plan. Again, that overarching guide for the county, and what falls under it are the community development plans, which many of you are, all of you are pretty well versed in, as well as special area plans or urban plans. So an example of that could be like the downtown Gila multimodal plan is an area plan. Kailua Kona has an area plan. Even Pahoa has a village plan. So those are more specific area plans. And then what funnels under that are regulatory matters, such as our county code, things like the zoning code, that is very different from the land use designations that we find in the general plan. This is not zoning. This is land use designations at a high guiding level. So anything in the general plan does not change zoning in and of itself. I want to repeat that. The general plan and the land use designations in the general plan do not change existing zoning. So regulatory measures also include our administration or administrative rules. So that is basically the process and procedures that various applications and things like that go through for permits. And then there are the permits themselves or any kind of process that if someone wants to change what they do or do something different or new with their property, they may have to come to the planning department in order to be able to do that, including a building permit. If you want to build a home, you get a building permit. On the flip side, under our county agencies, we have what's known as agency plans or functional plans because those plans serve a particular function or service. So such as water resources or wastewater. Solid waste has a plan. And so those plans are very specific to the agencies that oversee that kuleana. And then the way that those pieces are implemented are really through our capital improvements budget or program. Our budgets get approved by county council. So all of our budgets, capital budget and operating budget, goes through our county council. And so that is the mechanism for implementing projects on the ground, such as improvements to the roadways, improvements to wastewater, things like that. Putting in a new park. This park was put in some 6 or 8 years ago. This was part of a capital improvements project that was put in the budget, planning happened and went through the Parks Department, and then it was implemented. So that's a good example. So the process that we've been through, there have been a total of 3 general plans in the history of this county. The original one in 1971, again in 89, and then the current plan, which is from 2005. And so we are required to initiate the comprehensive review 10 years after the current general plan was adopted. So that was in 2005, so 10 years, 2015, and that is when we initiated this current process that we're in now. Some of the milestones that have happened throughout, this is just a very brief snapshot of all of the different pieces that have happened in initiation. We had a policy draft and land use maps that came out in 2019. We did a lot of public workshops. We met with all of the action committees. We met with other community groups as well as agencies. We came out again in last year in 2023. I think it was released in September. Again, we went out to all of the action committees, agencies, did public workshops and a lot of community groups. We set up tables like at Laku'u Farmers Market and the mall and other places like that, where we went to other events and set up a booth so that we could try to disseminate information and talk with people. And now we're doing the same thing in 2024 with the workshops and the community groups such as tonight. So again, just a brief, this really goes through 2023, but all of the different workshops that we've done, action committee meetings, things like that, and then all of the outreach we've done as well. Many updates at public hearings at county council, other public agency meetings, public notices, newspaper articles, radio, all of those things are various ways that we've tried to get the word out to receive comments and participation in all of our, within the whole process. So right now, our outreach opportunities have been the workshops, which some of you, thank you for coming to those. For those of you who did, we had an online workshop. Both of these are recorded and on our website, so they can be viewed after the fact. We also have these community meetings that we're here tonight in Puna, and we'll be in Hamakua next week. We've had our Conveo Interactive website and then our planning website. One of the things that you'll see in our planning website is it lays out the whole timeline and all of the information and data that we've tried to be as transparent as possible as of all of the information that we have done and provided to the public. And that shows up here starting in 2015. This is just a small piece of it. But every year we lay out all of the different things that have happened, all of the information that was shared at that time, recordings, if recordings were done, video recordings, and the like. So, so now the next step will be the plan and all of the community input that we're receiving now will be packaged together, and that will all get forwarded directly to our planning commissions. And they will meet starting on, the first meeting is on November 1st. Excuse me. They will review all of this information and they will start to deliberate. They will hear more presentations from us and more input from the public. Public testimony and written testimony are all very welcome. And those meetings will probably last about 4 to 5 months. They have 150 days as outlined in the process in order to go through this and make their recommendations to the county council. And then sometime in March, probably late March, it will be that whole package from the planning commission, including what we sent, and then they'll add to it. And then that will go to the county council for their review and deliberation. And we don't know how long that will last at county council. It could be there for 6 months to a year, it could be more. So just a quick outline of the document itself, but it sounds like a lot of you are pretty well versed in it. is we have an overarching vision statement for the general plan that really is fed through the current general plan, the 2005 general plan, and also all of the regional community development plans and other types of urban plans that we have. And so, or that the communities have. And so all of that input and information has really come together to create this vision statement for the overall plan. What sort of feeds down from that, and as some of you have already pointed out, is the components or the structure of the plan are based on vision and goals, objectives and guidelines, and then really the implementing piece are the policies and the actions. So one of the things that this plan does incorporate that other general plans have not incorporated is a more robust understanding of the importance of sustaining our cultural heritage and cultural practices on this island. Also creating more sustainable and regenerative local economy. And always preserving and honoring the INA and our environment and natural resources, as many of you have already pointed out tonight, so we greatly appreciate that. The structure of the plan is in chapters for intro, which we've basically just gone through, collaborative biocultural stewardship, which is our natural and cultural resources section, climate change, which is really about mitigating and adapting to the climate change that we're already seeing, increased fires, increased sea level rise, increased flooding, things like that, and how do we respond to that and try to adapt to that in a way that really protects the health and safety of the community. Sustainable development really is the rubber meets the road. It's things happening on the ground, such as land use and transportation, our utilities, public facilities such as this park, housing, and then integrated systems, which really is a practice of trying to have all of these different components collaborate and speak and feed to each other, learn from each other, and the like, to integrate all of these systems that we're talking about. Then for the economy, we have an economic section that also highlights the economy and having more diversification and innovation in economy for local economy, but also trying to better ensure our agriculture and food systems and being more sustainably producing our own food on this island. And then looking at how we can improve the visitor industry to really honor and respect the residents and the land and the heritage that is in this place. And then lastly is a section on implementation. It talks about the overall planning system, again, speaks to the capital improvements program and particularly outlines monitoring and evaluation of this plan. So having monitoring reports and things of that nature to evaluate how it's being implemented and how it's going. I think one of the things, I'm kind of skipping through a little bit to just get to the crux of it, and then I'm gonna cover a few things with land use, and then I'm gonna open it up to questions because I think you guys are fighting at the bit to ask questions, and we're happy to entertain that as well as all of our action committee members. So the overall goal for land use is really to strategically apply land use strategies that incorporate indigenous and contemporary knowledge, as well as place-based practices to help direct and manage growth in a healthy and safe for the health and safety of our communities. And so maintaining that community character that is defined by the communities themselves, integrate, and not every community has the same necessarily values or the same goals. So that is the point of respecting community character. Integrating natural systems planning that has to do with respecting the land and our natural resources, equitable decision-making, and then reducing the impact of natural hazards. So looking for those opportunities to help mitigate. A few of the changes that we made in land use specific to the land use designations, again, this is not zoning. So I'm gonna probably have to say that many times tonight, this is not zoning. Nothing about the general plan changes the existing zoning. If you have zoning of ag 5 acres, no matter what gets adopted in this plan, you will still have agriculture 5 acres, and whatever you're using it for right now will continue to use. So I just want to keep making that clear, because I think there are some confusions with land use designations in the general plan. Again, high level guide versus what you can do with your land today. And versus zoning, that's a code, yes. Thank you. So some of the distinctions that we've heard over the years and even previous to starting this process is distinctions between industrial uses. So better understanding light industrial or service industrial uses from heavy industrial. Heavy industrial typically needs to be better buffered and may have negative externalities that would affect neighboring areas, so they may need to be buffered a bit more, particularly say from residential uses and things like that. Light industry could be more like service industries and commercial type activities. Agricultural, there's a big confusion between the general plan important ag lands, which is currently in the general plan, and state land use important ag lands. That's an ongoing confusion that we face every day in the planning department and answering questions about land use. And so we simply changed the name to productive agriculture, which is what it is. That's what it's intended to be, is productive agriculture. So we simply changed the name. We also added an agriculture designation called natural that is intended to allow for agricultural uses, but most of those lands are in Malca areas and or have native forests and things like that, which is a big part of our natural resources to help recharge our groundwater. And so, again, we've heard a lot about different types of agriculture and open space. And so we created this natural designation, which I'm happy to talk about more tonight. And then we changed the name from open designation to recreation, again, to distinguish more between active recreational lands, such as parks that we're here right now. This would be designated as recreation versus conservation lands, which would be consistent with our state land use conservation lands. Many of our shorelines are state land use conservation and things like that. So the idea is to just have a clearer distinction between recreational active uses and more conservation protection.
Sorry, I saw that there was some confusion over there. I like to allow if you have a question, so we can explain that now.
It's around the codes, the county codes, and it's around the zoning.
Right.
And I went through the 89 or the 80s cycle, and I went through the 2015, 2016 cycle. And I was talking about keeping some land on the Hamakua coast as industrial. The battle was people wanted to be conservation land. All you can do on that is make a park. And so it passed, and they wanted it to be unanimous, so they had a few extra meetings, and it was passed as industrial, went through the county council, no problem, went through the land commission, no problem, went through the mayor's office, no problem, I objected all along the way. It wasn't until it came back to planning that I think it was Elizabeth Morrison from Puna. She had the power to say, no, it's gonna stay industrial. She saved the day. And I would like to know what's happening to that land now. But it becomes a zoning problem when that person dies and they pass it on, or that person wants to sell the land. So Shropshire wants to sell his land that's now industrial. He can only sell it as conservation. It'll turn into conservation land.
Okay.
And that's the way it is.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna try and explain this. There's almost, at this point, 3 different systems in which we're looking at for land use. We have state land use districting, And so a lot of the things that we did in changing lands to conservation was in line with that. So if there's a state land use designation for conservation, we changed those parcels to conservation as well. Two reasons why. Regardless of what we at this point do, if it's state land use conservation, you're gonna have to go get a conservation use district application to do anything on that land. So we're streamlining that process. Secondly, a lot of the industrial land we did not touch. And if there is a change, it's either making a distinction between light industrial and heavy industrial. So we can go and look today or when Hamakua comes, and if you wanna, we can speak a little bit more toward Hamakua next week. We can examine that with you. And then lastly, then we have the zoning code. The zoning codes are your entitlements to your land. And regardless if somebody dies, the zoning for that property stays that zoning unless there are conditions in the bill or ordinance that says otherwise. So that's not, none of that is going to be dictated by the general plan. The only thing that's dictated by the general plan is how high of a density you can go. So if I own Ag 20, right? But let's say I own Ag 20 near Hilo in an urban district, land use, let's say urban, low density urban. To the most part, I cannot go and say I want high density. I can only go up to low density. So that's what the general plan is saying. This is recommending the best and highest use. And it's not changing your zoning, any of your current zoning. Okay, it's just saying this is now what the best and highest use. Not amending changes. We can also go look at a map that shows which parcels did change. A lot of them are gonna be in these areas that April has highlighted. Light, heavy industrial, a lot of them are gonna be in agriculture, but a lot of them are not going into rural or anything else other than conservation, which is in line with the state use land conservation, or natural, because they could be used for agriculture protection, but at elevations really high, it's not as desirable. Natural still allows ag use, or they were on land that's covered by lava, so you're not gonna get any productive ag. You're not gonna be growing crops. You may be able to have a cow, have a goat, have things of that nature. So you can still do agriculture activities on natural land use designation. Land use designation is not zoning. I will repeat that again.
So,
Sorry, my name is Natasha Soriano for those online.
so you're saying that ag land is not ag land, it's because it's not designated, it's not.
Nope.
What are you saying again about?
What I am saying is your zoning, if you have a zoning of agricultural, and it'll come with a number, yes? Ag 20, Ag 5, Ag 1, you will not lose that. The land use designation is only what the highest, if I want to sell, and I want to sell this land at the highest possible rate, I have to rezone. Now, if it says I'm in a natural, I cannot rezone anything higher than agriculture. I cannot rezone, I cannot do that rezoning. So it's not taking away your zoning, any of your current zoning. It is suggesting what is the highest use for that land. The best and highest use.
And when land that is residential gets rezoned as important agricultural.
There is little to none.
Papayacao this last year to 80 acres of land.
80 acres of land got rezoned. So you're saying 80 acres of land got rezoned. The property owner, it's not us. We're not rezoning them out of thin air.
Okay, but the property owner is trying to get low affordable housing on that land. So he's objecting to it. It's not him that changed it. Who changed it? Was it the county building, county tax revenue?
I think maybe
Is the zoning.
no. A person who owns a property can apply to change their zoning. The department does not do any zoning out of willy-nilly discretion or anything of that sort. So if there are any properties and they're having a hard time building low-income housing, it's not either because of the zoning, there may be something with the zoning, but the zoning did not change. And so I don't know if you're understanding that problem specifically correctly. We can talk about it more later offline, but I just want everybody to be clear because there is a paper being circulated around. This plan is not taking away your zoning.
Not taking away your rights.
I'll let you, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm here to enter into the record a few facts that I'm bringing. And somebody already referenced Rosa Coyer. She had a 28-year career as let me just get it for you, a forensic commercial real estate appraiser specializing in eminent domain valuation. So she was right there in the zone. And at a certain point in her career, she started to notice this prevalence of this new agenda. And she's published a book, Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 2021. So I'm entering into the record some policy that goes way above all of us. It's determined at a much higher level. And you, April, were using the image right there of the umbrella. We're talking about the umbrella that's above your umbrella. And so we're not necessarily assuming that you know about it, but and it seems to be a pattern with this plan, is that our concerns keep getting dismissed as not being valid.
Yes.
And I'm bringing to you data. It's data, and I want to enter it into the record here, and it's the basis of our legal objection to what has been going on. So if you tell us no, I'm just going to read you the passage. It's just a sentence, but I'm going to read it to you, and then you're welcome to respond. But some of the people here are coming because we've studied Agenda 2021. Agenda 2021 is already Agenda 2030. And just for context, Joe Biden in 2022 launched the 30 by 30 agenda. Are you aware of that? Okay, well, that's 30% of all land, 30% of all land in the United States being designated wilderness. So we have to start to understand the meta context. You're here assuring me what it means, and we're telling you the meta context, and we've studied an agenda that goes far beyond what your understanding is. The only thing we can do is study what these agendas seem to be spelling out for us, unless we have the sense to wake up and call into question these mechanisms. So I'll just go ahead, I'll finish now, and I'll read this passage to you. Not passage, it's a couple of lines. Thank you. So Rosa Coyer, I've established her credentials. She says, excuse me. Oh, okay. Oh gosh. It's right here somewhere, I'm so sorry. You know that find it? No, excuse me.
Was there a question or is this testimony?
It is a question because.
I think you've already testified.
This is a question, I believe. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll say something very quickly.
Okay.
While she's looking. I noticed that you said earlier, we're happy to entertain that when in regard to listening to question and answers and getting feedback from the public. And I just wanted to remind you, and it's absolutely nothing personal. I know everybody works very hard and I respect everything. But this is an entertainment for our government. We are the government. We are telling you, we're having some problems and we really want you to listen to us.
Understood. Thank you. I have a question about this. Yeah, this is on page 33. On page 33, regulatory measurements. And this is county code, administrative rules, and permits. Throughout this whole general plan, you guys have a ton of regulations, of permits, like I said earlier, with the collaborating with other people besides the general public and homeowners and farmers. And also sustainability. Why
is it so important for us to stay in sustainability when it should be innovation? Why is that? Why is not innovation a concern of yours, us moving forward and what we can do with innovation of new technology that's gonna support thriving communities? Why doesn't thriving communities, why isn't that phrase in the general plan? The thriving communities, farmers, homeowners, no, those words are not in the general plan at all. Why is that? Why is that?
Okay, so if I'm gonna address the why is homeowners not in here? I understand that the word stakeholder has a meaning for you folks, but for us, stakeholder includes homeowners. It includes people who don't own homes because
That's not the definition of a stakeholder. That's not, and have you heard?
we have defined stakeholders. We have a glossary. And if you look at that and don't agree with it, please comment on it. As far as comments, it's not that we're entertaining. We are taking your comments. But you also have to understand in the process of this is the final draft going to council as is. We are packaging comments, and so we still encourage everyone to please bring forth their comments. With that said, in the process of writing this plan from 2015 till now, we have entertained over 6,000 comments. Not all of them are agreed. And so our job is to then synthesize, find that balance, okay? So I apologize, I may be a little bit tired, but you bring credentials, I have credentials. You haven't asked me for my credentials, so I'm a little, I am ready to hear.
Thank you. And also, I just want to say, I recognize that back to the analogy of the cake, there's some ingredients there for a delicious cake. It's like we're both watching and one person thinks it's salt and the other person thinks it's sugar. But I am entering this into the record and just to that point, and thank you, Mr. Herkel, this is a legal proceeding. Of course it is. As someone's pointed out, we are the government. These are our private property rights, which are protected by the United States Constitution. So of course, everything you do actually has legal weight to it. And if we're giving you notice of some harm that we can foresee, this actually is legal, this entire process, because we're entering into the record objections. The problem with this consultation is each and every time people have brought you comments, and you use the word entertainment, we didn't, this has just been brought forward again, carried forward. Now you're even telling us that this document is getting ready to be finalized. That's objectionable.
Okay.
But I will just,
Readers, yes, thank you.
This information. The general plan, comprehensive plan is adopted by your municipality after lots of Delphi meetings where the public is invited and those who are team players are identified and honored as community leaders so that they can speak for you. Those who raise objections are also identified. The general plan will be used to deny property owners the right to use their land as it was previously zoned. Here's how they do it. You may already know that if the city or county is going to change your zoning, it's required to notify you first. But the underlying document that takes precedence over zoning is the general plan. You don't need to be notified when the general plan is changed because it's general and your property is not the only one that's use is changing. So again, back to the analogy of the cake, these are some really great ingredients, and then also some absolutely, it's endangerment to fundamental rights and it's violations of rights. So as a legal exchange, because I'm here notifying you of harm being done, this is being recorded, and it's very important we just be able to say there's information we're bringing to you of harm. And the fact that you are delivering to us a legal document and then saying, well, it won't really affect your zoning. Okay, here's my question. Why then is it in the zoning? It doesn't seem to, you don't seem to have satisfied that question for us. Why is it appearing to us as if the zoning's changed and you're telling us not? And again, I'm entering into the record somebody who looked deeply into it and said, that the general plan will supersede. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
I
I'm
can't
sorry.
answer that question, but thank you.
Sorry, I just want to have a chance for our committee members. We've been sitting here very patient. And I think part of what we want to do as far as the Puna Action Committee is also have a chance to ask April and Natasha some questions if the committee members have any questions as well. So I see Committee Member Henkel, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm interested in affordable housing, and I was wondering if you could explain what the county's current formula is to determine what is affordable housing, and if it needs adjusting, whose Kuleana would it be to adjust the formula for affordable housing? Because from what I understand right now, $450,000 is considered an affordable house, and that's unrealistic to me. And I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Understood, understood. Thank you, Greg. So the department, our Office of Housing oversees that definition on behalf of the county. So that is who ultimately addresses affordable housing for the county. However, I will say for the general plan and from our perspective, and I know the director has also said this publicly, in open record, that affordable housing is what our residents, our people who live here can afford. What is attainable for the people who actually live here? That is what we consider affordable housing. And that's for all of us, including myself. I don't own my own home because I can't afford it. So to answer your question, the Office of Housing, but more specifically, there are definitions that fall under federal regulations and things like that, like AMI and Alice and those kinds of things that are spelled out with certain funding mechanisms when there's federal fundings and things like that. But really, when we get down to what is affordable housing is what can our people who residents who live here, there are many people who live here and have lived here their entire lives, do not own a home because they can't afford it. And so, or they're multi generations living in one home, very crowded because they can't afford otherwise. And so those are the things that we hope we can fix as a county. Thanks, Greg. Chair.
Thanks. Any other questions from our committee members?
I do have a couple of questions.
Wait.
Oh, you're community members. Those community members. Community members. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I was reading through the land use and urban areas, rural areas, and details about that. I asked the question when I first came. They chose on the general plan 3 large cities for the island: Hilo, Kona, and Waikoloa. What is the population of Waikoloa?
Well, Waikoloa Village, so I wasn't understanding what your question was when you asked me that earlier, but I just did a quick look at the US Census, and for Waikoloa Village, which is the Mauka Village, is about 7,500 population as of 2 years ago.
Okay, so we need to look at Cal, Upper Cal, Mountain View to Cal, Ainaloa, let's say Ainaloa to Cal. We've got Paradise Park. I'm sure there's over 10,000 people. I would say that's a major urban area. I mean, maybe that's the wrong word, but everything that goes with these designations means that there needs to be infrastructure, major infrastructure. And we're ignoring Cal. We're ignoring Paradise Park. When it's built out, I can't remember what the estimate is. 20,000 people? No. Maybe more?
There are 22,000 vacation lots on the island.
No, but that's not what she's after HPP. The number of lots in HPP is over 4,000.
No, it's 10,000. But the main point is Orchid Land, Mountain View, Curtistown, and all the Shipman land that they hope to develop. We're talking about 30,000 people, easy. So this general plan needs to add that. And the infrastructure that goes with all of that, we're suffering. It took me quite a while to drive here today because of that stupid roundabout, which needs to be changed immediately. I feel so sorry for anybody that lives in Pahoa. I don't live in Pahoa, I live off of Shallow Drive, which is a privileged area. I'm thankful. So anyway, the general plan, really, my question is, can they change that? Change. Well, add that to the 3 that got already designated. Hilo, Puna, Waikoloa. I was surprised that Waikoloa was considered a major urban area. I mean, maybe it is, but Cal is much better designation.
I think it might have been Waimea, but.
No, it says in here Waikoloa.
Okay, very good, got it. So those are intended as urban distinctions, as you also pointed out, whereas a lot of the Puna area is very high population, but is much more rural in nature. You're more spread out in Puna, you're not concentrated like the other urban areas are. And so much smaller lots in those areas, higher densities. So that's the distinction between those particular urban hubs versus in Pahoa, in Puna in general. What I can say is that, and we hadn't really gotten there yet, but it addresses part of what you're speaking to, and your community development plan speaks to a lot of these things as well. And one of the things that we've tried to address in this general plan is to really learn from those community development plans, which was a huge community effort in the various regions, and implement those and include a lot of those policies, and also intensive policies and land use distinctions in the general plan. So we've tried to reflect that in this general plan.
I'm aware that Shipman has already made plans to continue to fill out KL behind the intermediate school. They sent out, I think it was in the paper, I can't remember now. And they have all that land, where the intersection, where the bypass starts. So we're talking about urban, we're talking about dense neighborhoods. And please add this as a major infrastructure need, because of all the people that funnel to Cal and have to go through that area. When that gets developed, we're even going to look at even more traffic headaches and dangers.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course. Chair.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from our action committee members?
Can I ask a point of clarification on the zoning question? Something that should have been, but we're gonna walk away.
You say that as far as the plan designates how far you can go up, what do you mean by up? Like, is it just basically saying that since only the owner can apply to rezone, it's like how far up the chart they can possibly apply for a rezoning and have a chance of even getting it is what you're trying to say? Okay. And it's one step up, or
It could be various steps.
Okay.
It really depends on, there's still flexibility even within that, frankly, because the county council ultimately makes decisions on change of zone applications. And so if there is sufficient information and evidence, need, whatever the course may be of the landowner wanting to do with the land and maybe the community need and things like that, the county council actually has the power to make a different decision.
Okay.
So there's still flexibility within this plan, because this doesn't dictate necessarily what the zoning is. The county council, that's a separate action that goes through both planning commission and county council, and council is the one that ultimately makes that decision.
Great, thank you for that explanation.
You're welcome. Chair?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. That I was wondering that too, so thank you. The question I just had was, I noticed that the plan itself has the, a 2045 date. And just wondering why that was chosen, only because, as a Puna Action Committee member, we've had our plan from 2008 and we've had several addendums. And of course, there's so much that can happen, right? That we've seen actually. So does the plan also allow for amendments to occur? Does it allow for, is it a living, breathing document that will allow more input, or say if things are happening within our communities, to allow that kind of flexibility for the plan to be able to address those kinds of needs?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Yes, to all of those things. So even once this plan is adopted, it can still be amended. There's something called interim amendments, and that means you can, council, it can come from application from a landowner, from the public, from the director, from at the time, 10 years from now. Or from county council, they could decide that some aspect of the plan needs to be amended. The current general plan has been amended more than a handful of times since it was originally adopted in 2005. I think the last amendment was in 2014. So yes, these plans, just like any ordinance with the county, it can be amended at any time. And is a living, breathing document, as you pointed out.
So, Panoy, I'll also add that in the normal planning cycle, a comprehensive review would be done 10 years after the plan is, okay, so we are behind. And so that's why right now we're going 2045 from this moment on. But hopefully for the next comprehensive review, we'll do that in the next, after 10 years.
Yeah, and I would say further, thanks for bringing us back to that point, Tosh. Most comprehensive planning documents, comprehensive plans, general plans, they have different names in different jurisdictions. Look at a 20-year horizon, including our current general plan, looks at kind of a 20-year horizon. It doesn't mean that everything gets done in 20 years. It's like we're looking out ahead. And when we do some of the reports that we have for our socioeconomic data and things like that, we look at past information, current information, and we see what that might look like as a trend over the next 20 years. And so that's part of the planning tool. One of many things is the planning in a planning tool that can help look ahead of what might be in 20 years. But it doesn't mean that everything happens within that time frame. As she said, likely to go through another comprehensive amendment process 10 years from when it's adopted and the like.
And then so one last thing I'll add. So then after this, we'll go through a process of amending CDPs or doing a comprehensive reviews of the CDPs. So that's another opportunity to then look specifically at Puna and what are the needs for Puna. Again, some of these conversations about village and, hopefully we will add Hilo in the next round. But those are times where we can then again look at like Orchid Land as a village, and if that village center should be here, there, if there's more specific areas and things like that. So there's a lot more opportunity to be very active in this process and active in developing how our communities look.
Mahalo. So in other words, you're telling us we have to serve for another 10 years then?
Yeah.
All right. Well, mahalo, April and Tasha. Thank you guys so much for coming and sharing about the general plan. I don't know if you guys have contact information, or I'm sure we can get in touch with you folks if there are any other questions or anything like that. I do want to make sure we honor.
Through the CDP staff, and then generalplan@hawaiicounty.gov is our email that several of us get. So thank you.
Sorry, there was a few more questions. I don't know if it's.
The chair,
We have to
I'm
get
gonna,
out.
yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm kind of wanting to make sure we honor time. We do have two more agenda items that we still have to do, and I'm not sure, there is still, I think, time, right, within this process to continue to ask questions to this particular team. There's also where it's gonna go before the planning commission as well as the county council. So if you folks do also wanna take that opportunity to be part of that process as well. But I just wanna make sure we honor our, the committee's time, our staff's time, making sure that we can also then cover the next two agenda items as well as some of the new business that we still are looking at planning for our next meeting.
Well, maybe I could ask Susie to ask those two questions that I asked her earlier. Because I didn't get to ask them.
April, is there a way that they can email questions to you folks? Okay.
I got to watch how the Hilo didn't have a CDP. It was trying to answer at the Hilo meeting at our Hilo. There were 14 people for Hilo, no CDP, 14 people, there's about 14 here. And that was the big Hilo meeting. Hilo has had no CDP. I hear about the whole, you folks have been meeting for years in all of the other districts. Hilo, nothing. And they tried to answer it, but they didn't answer the question. Why is there no CDP for Hilo? That by itself, I think, can remove this general plan until there is one.
So I did answer that question at the Hilo workshop. There have been a number of reasons why over the years for Hilo. And it's ebbed and flowed. We've tried to find money for that particular CDP. All of the other CDPs are actually funded by their council members. They found money through their council members to have these CDPs done. There hasn't been until more recently a big demand for a CDP in Hilo. Part of that is because of all of the other sort of area plans that Hilo has that's very different from any other area on the island. So those are various reasons.
It doesn't cost money to meet, that doesn't cost money.
It doesn't. It doesn't. You're right. And you are part of the.
We talk every Tuesday at his church, it doesn't cost a dime.
Okay. Thank you.
And the other meetings, you know, the meetings that go back to 71, there's a downtown, there's a few little things, but there's no cohesive overall thing with groups that go out and cover particular issues, come back, report to the CDP, then the CDP filters into you folks for the general plan. We have had no such thing. So there's no use trying to create it because.
No problem. No problem. We appreciate the comment. We are meeting with the council members of Hilo in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about the next steps for initiating a Hilo CDP. So we'll keep you posted on that, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from your council members as well. So really appreciate the passion and the thoughts behind that. Thank you.
Speaking of which, this meeting was advertised publicly as an opportunity, a review of the plan. We weren't aware of other agenda items, and we've come here and I'm hearing people who still have questions. So I don't really understand procedurally how you can cut off the questions when it was advertised as a review of the general plan for the public.
Yeah, so all of these community meetings, if there is an action committee, and we actually have a really robust, it's worth mentioning North Kohala, because they do not have an action committee because they choose not to. They choose not to because they have way more flexibility and way more freedom to do the work that they need and want to do in their community in implementing their community development plan. So they're a great model, and it's called the North Kohala Advisory Group. And it's a great model for community planning at the grassroots level. So that's one piece. The other piece is that we advertise these meetings as both for a couple of reasons. Number one, if we did not advertise them as an action committee meeting, then all of these great folks would not be able to attend. The law does not allow them to attend as a group if it's not agendized as a community development plan action committee meeting. Two, and this happened in Kona, in South Kona, when we met with South Kona, if for some reason at the last minute, they don't have quorum, we can continue with the meeting for the general plan. So they can't then cover any of their other topics, but it has been agendized, it's been noticed, publicly noticed, and they didn't have quorum in that case for South Puna. And so we were able to continue with the presentation and Q&A for the general plan. So it's a dual purpose.
They're waiting to ask their question and you just took 5 minutes, so can they ask their question?
For real, I think I have to object because the reason why you said you didn't want to take questions was because of time. And you guys just took up a bunch of time. So if you guys get to take up a bunch of time, why wouldn't we get to ask a couple of questions?
Extend 15 minutes for these people to do
Please.
their thing,
Thank
and
you.
then do your other two.
Chair, they're asking for 15 minutes for a few more questions.
Can I ask that the questions be directed to Puna? If these are Puna related questions before we even consider it, because there's been a lot of discussion and it hasn't related to Puna, and that's what we're here for.
Thank you for, yes, thank you, Franny, for that. And again, I just want to make sure we honor everyone's time as well. The thing is that we do have 2 more agenda items, including one that has to deal with the implementation, looking at our own priorities as a Puna community. So a lot of the conversation that is going on regarding the general plan, then also does a disservice when we can't even, as an action committee, have our own conversation about what those types of priorities we're looking at for our community in Puna. So I want to make sure we also have a conversation with our action committee that allows us to have that open communication as well as conversation in front of our community members regarding that.
I think also that April has provided an email information way to address your questions that would be answered. Is that correct, April? That if they pose questions
That's correct. If they wrote their questions down tonight, we're happy to take those and get back to them. If they want to email us, which I understand some people may not want to do, and we respect that, they can email generalplan@hawaiicounty.gov and we will get back to them. We also are transcribing questions and comments from all of these public meetings, and as they're available, we've started making them available on our website under each of these community meetings, just like we did recordings for the workshops. We're including these recordings for these community meetings, and there's a PDF document that also contains the questions that were asked and answers to those questions, as well as comments that were offered that were not necessarily questions. So we are documenting and making that publicly available. So any questions that we get, you know, right now, maybe in writing, we're happy to include those and get back to you.
Thank you, thank you. And I would also propose, Kanoi, that if we could, I know item number 2 will be deferred, but if we can get through number 3, we can, if we have time, we can go back to questions, answering questions here, if there's time.
Mahalo, Susie.
We have a question from the floor and we're requesting to enter it into the record. This is a legal proceeding about a general plan. Okay, advertise that. I'm so
This is a
sorry.
public meeting, not a legal proceeding. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be belligerent at all. I'm probably last because I'm shy and nervous. And I don't like to speak in public all that much. But I did want to ask a question. I'm a community member here in Puna for 32 years. I'm a teacher. I've raised 4 children. I have 12 grandchildren in the schools in this area. And I'm really committed to this place. I love it. I really love the culture. I taught it for Okala for many years. You know, it's a really, you know, I love this place. And my question that I came with was, I only, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of time and I looked on your website and tried to understand. It's a huge thing. I just found out about this plan a few days ago. I had no idea that it's been worked on since 2015. I don't know how it missed me or passed me by because I'm usually pretty attentive. So I don't know, you know, that I just want to speak to that. You know, there a lot of people have said that, you know, somehow we need to get better at advertising. And the main question I came with is what I did read in the document, and it was more in the general description that you guys had. You had like the document and then you had like a 10-page general description. And I looked through that and there was a lot of language around working with communities to develop industry that was compatible with that community. And I have been here for 30-some years. I was evacuated the first time the geothermal company exploded. I had to leave my home. Animals died. People lost babies. I had children, rushing out of town and with. So, that's my reality that, I've been worried, and I've been a teacher all these years. I've had kids come in, oh, grandma threw up this morning because of geothermal had a release shots. I don't feel too good today, Auntie. That's what I hear here. So I just, because I heard you say you had nothing to do with industry, but yet there was language in there around how to make sure that industry is compatible with the community, and clearly geothermal power in a place where Tutukele is not compatible with this community, and it's been clearly stated many, many times. So I really hope that your plan reflects that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Yes. Chair.
Thank you.
Mahalo. Again, mahalo, April, mahalo, Tasha, again, thank you guys so much for all that you guys are doing, and being here this evening to present on the general plan. So really appreciate, again, the contact information and getting in touch with you folks, visiting your website and everything like that. So should there be any other questions or anything like that, please make sure to contact that wonderful team and get any of your other questions or comments or concerns or anything like that. With that, we're going to go ahead and move forward to our agenda item number 2, drafting a letter of support for conservation efforts. I know committee member Leila Kealoha proposed this agenda item and unfortunately is not able to be here. So I just want to see if there is a motion on the floor from one of our committee members.
I'd like to motion that we table that until the next meeting.
I second that and discussed that with Leila, and she concurred that would be appropriate to defer this this agenda item.
Yes. Committee, Committee Henkel, Committee Member Henkel.
Yeah, I was wondering, I would encourage everybody, and I'm going to try to do it too, is to jot down some notes to include with that agenda item next week. I've got thoughts about sustainability and stuff in Lower Puna, so I'd like to jot them all down and make them more organized and present them.
Chair, you're muted. Chair, you're muted.
Sorry. So the motion to defer to our next meeting is currently on the table. Those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No? Okay, great. So I'm sure staff has made note that that has passed unanimously. So we'll go ahead and table that and then move that to our next meeting. And then now moving on to business item number 3, and this is we're at that 6:51 p.m. And the committee will now move on to business item number 3, which is the discussion of AC implementation priorities. This is part of our continued discussion and potential decision-making of looking at action committee implementation priorities. So I'll go ahead, I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion to committee members to see. I know there's been a lot of discussion with us in regards to what we're looking at in regards to implementation priorities for our Puna AC. So I'll open up to any committee members.
I guess I share the question that
the question that I have is because we're going to have this after the general plan review, there's going to be a review of the different community development plans. Are we thinking about this in terms of getting ahead of what we might want to have in the community development plan after that, when that review starts in a year or whenever that, ends up happening? Is that sort of the goal where we're going to look, maybe not so much implementation at this point, because that plan is quite old. So are we really looking at like how we can, look forward to rewriting the next plan and what that process is gonna look like? What do other people think? This is a question.
Franny, was that you, Franny?
Yes, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Especially hearing from our planning team earlier, right? That we could be looking at revisiting the CDPs once the general plan goes through. So yeah, I guess that's one of the things that we definitely want to consider in this case is this something that we're still looking at the old plan, and then is there, you know, us updating, amending, and then looking at other priorities? Susie.
Could we ask the planning of April if what sort of the timeline would be considered for the CDP review and revision?
April is not here now.
Whomever could answer that. Is there anyone from planning that's still here?
The timeline for the CDP update?
Yeah.
There's no clear update to, like, we don't usually. Right now, we don't have a clear timeline of when the CDPs will be updated, but it will be following this general plan process. So it's dependent on how long the general plan takes through planning commission and then county council. So I'm sorry, it's hard to give a timeline for the CDP updates. But we'll keep you guys posted as the general plan process moves forward.
So I guess, my follow-up to that is, I know you guys aren't gonna do all the plans at once, and so are the plans that are the committees that are more ready? No, like, I mean, it's sort of like, if we're positioned and ready to go, is it more likely that ours will be chosen to go first?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I'm not sure of which plans. I'm sure the planning department will do a review of the CDPs, right? Because some have been adopted in 2008, and then some have been adopted more recently, right? Like Hamakua and Ka'u. So I can definitely pass on this question to April and see what that kind of prioritization is, and get back to you guys. So sorry, I couldn't be a better answer.
Hi, Franny. This is Mariam. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry for not being there in person today. It sounds like we're talking about updates to the Puna CDP as a possible priority item for the AC. On top of what Janice said, in terms of general plan and that process and timeline, there's a lot of factors that are involved in that process, and I would say one of the main bottlenecks is going to be funding, because that would require having a consultant if we're going to do a complete kind of like what we did with the general plan, a comprehensive review. This is 2008, it's 2024 now. How intensely of an update do we want to do? The AC would be would have a voice in that whole conversation, but it could be anywhere on the spectrum of like, we just want some amendments versus we want to rewrite the whole thing. And with the current draft of the general plan, there's language in there that kind of leans more towards rewriting the whole, or at least restructuring the CDPs, because all the CDPs are different. And so if we can kind of bring some cohesive structure to them, it'll be a little bit easier for the community and everybody to kind of navigate them, and kind of even see how they align better with the general plan and things like that. The other thing is, I mean, the more very real, we have staff capacity, right? In order to have a CDP update, that would require planning staff to be there, to work with the consultants, to run the workshops, and assuming we're doing a whole kind of rewrite kind of thing. Another kind of something to consider is that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to wait until we have been funded and we have hired consultants to start the process of updating our CDPs, right? So something the AC can do is they can start looking at their current CDP and start redlining, start highlighting, start, you guys can start bringing together things that are missing, things that you need to be removed, and start doing that kind of like initial base work. I mean, you could even just simply be looking at your land use maps and things like that. So all of those things are kind of like this could be like a kind of there's a lot of factors, and we can kind of take this conversation offline to kind of really map that out. If the AC wants to do this entirely like that, then we do it all together in our public meeting format. That's also, but if you guys want to have one or two individuals kind of just work with kind of mapping out what the different paths look like, then that's something that we can schedule meetings for and kind of have those conversations and map out how we can get this started sooner rather than later for you guys. Yeah, I would say that that's kind of one option. I mean, also we could just have this conversation as a whole, and that can become one of the priorities that you guys have, and it's just something that we work to throughout each of our meetings also. And Susie.
Thank you very much for that. I'm a little bit brain dead at this time, being at 7 o'clock, and one of the priorities, and I'm sorry because I don't have it aligned with our Puna CDP at this point, but I would like to be able to see, and I don't know if it's a county council resolution or and this is something, a letter that we would provide, or how we would, if we could take this on as an action committee item, but to have some mechanism to have a DPW when they approve landscape plans for building, that there's some sort of criteria embedded that no high-risk invasive plants are approved with it for those landscape plans, because there's, all these stores that are still selling these high-risk plans that are getting, impacting us really negatively. So I want to just maybe defer that for this. I would recommend at 7 o'clock if we could defer this whole conversation. I know I can do a little more research on that, but that's one potential item that could be an implementation item for us.
And I believe that's even already existing in the CDP, right? That language, and it was brought up as just a quick review before we go, because I do, I want to respect everybody. We're at 7 o'clock already. I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but
Yes.
This is kind of a breakdown of the priorities that you guys submitted to the Google form. So this is the most the first priorities that you went through, and so this is also kind of at our next meeting, or if you guys want to reach out and we have this conversation, also that's something. But just to, maybe this is something everybody can do, is kind of, we can resend out this material, and you guys can look into what everybody kind of proposed that should be a priority for the committee, and we can kind of from there also kind of have all of these at our next item, or at our next meeting, to kind of go through this more in depthly to see what kind of like specific kind of projects or pathways we might have for these different action items. If you propose, like if you see your action item here and you want to reach out, it would be helpful for us to kind of have that conversation with planning, because some of these are pretty broad still yet, to have this conversation with planning so we can start mapping out the different plans or the paths of how we could achieve some of these action items. And then at our next meeting, we kind of go through all of this stuff together in a more kind of thought out, intentional way, instead of, 2 seconds before the meeting's supposed to be finished.
Is that okay with planning team? Okay, that would be, is everyone on board with that? Marty's saying she's nodding.
Yes, completely on board with that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just to give some quick highlights, if you see here, we have the themes, right? Over here, we got Malamai Aina, managing growth, transportation, and a lot of the things that you guys have been bringing up, even that aren't specific action items like explicitly written in the CDP, are relevant, right? So the conversations with Orchidland neighbors and their park, that fits under managing growth 3.5.3. Connectivity conversations that have been happening obviously fit under transportation and roadway networks. And even, there's even been items of like biosphere you know, the biosphere reserve buffer zone, and then also that other one that you mentioned above that. So all of this can we can work together to kind of map out all of how these work, what kind of intensity is required from all of them also, and the kind of type of commitment. But even just like how we start these first steps and what you guys are all interested in. So yeah.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that's of course on top of any general plan, things you guys want to do, and of course the updates that we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Mahalo, Miriam. Thank you so much for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Too bad, well, all the people were here, we didn't announce about needing more members to the Puna Community Development Committee.
Can anyone hear me? It's Stephanie.
Good. Make your application in the mayor's office, yeah? Yeah, I saw
Can
that one.
anyone hear me? It's Stephanie Bath. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Stephanie.
Yes, Stephanie, but you're speaking over committee members, Stephanie, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that I was being heard because I've been chatting with you and getting no response.
Did you have a question, Stephanie? I know you testified earlier.
Yeah, so there was one of the I was chatting and they said that I actually would be able to testify on number 3, which I didn't have the opportunity to testify on.
But I apologize for that. That's my fault for as being chair. Did you still want to testify on agenda item number 3?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the reason why I'm actually here.
Okay, go ahead. I'll give you 3 minutes.
Yeah. So first, before I testify, I want to say that the conversation that's been going on in the utilization of time regarding this priority or this item, there was a lot of discussion on whether or not you should prioritize or not. And I kept saying point of order because that's not what the agenda item was about. The agenda item, as I understood it, is what do you want to prioritize? And it sounds like that none of the action committee members came prepared to reflect what they believed the priorities are. So I'm here to testify that the number 1 priority should be acquisition of the connectivity locations as cited in the implementation chart so that subdivisions can be connected so that we don't have to go to Highway 11 to do everything, and so that we could have road redundancy. What's been happening is I've been on mayor's committees for this. I was actually the steering committee lead during the PCDP for transportation. That's what I did. And it's very invalidating to a lot of us that have been involved in this process before. And we've been showing up at these meetings and we've been making this suggestion and there's been no action taken. And so number 1 priority should be acquisition of all of the connectivity locations, and we could bulldoze them or we could develop them later, but they need to be acquired because people are building and we're going to lose the opportunity. I've said this so many times in front of so many action committees. The second priority is to immediately go to Public Works and enforce grubbing and grading. If anybody does anything to their parcel that causes flooding, they should be fined, that they cease and desist something. It's ridiculous. And I'm sorry because I'm on the continental United States right now and you're talking about 7 o'clock and it's way later than that here. And I'm still hanging in here and I'm feeling really invalidated by not having the action committee take action. We must do this now. We must not put it off. Oh, is the general plan going to be adopted? Should we relook at the plan? Well, what about all the work that we did back in 2007 and 2008? We, the people, were promised by Roy Tanimoto that if we were going to do this, if we were going to put our sweat and our time into a plan, that it was going to be honored. And now what I'm hearing is that, oh, well, maybe we just won't do it. So please, you guys, set a priority and set this current administration to the task of doing it now. Thank you very much. I'm very frustrated with this meeting. I'm sorry, but it's difficult. And I am overtired because it's like after 11 o'clock here. So thank you.
I would absolutely concur with Stephanie's Manao on this. And in fact, after the last Puna CDP, I spoke with Patty Pinto, who did extensive work on the connectivity issues. And I'm sorry because I failed. I asked her if she would be able to put together a presentation for the CDP, the newer members that aren't familiar with the extensive work that Stephanie and Patty and others have done, and the incredible urgency of the situation, given what we see with natural disasters going on. So I would like to see if we could put on the next agenda, having Patty Pinto, and she said she would already, provide an overview of the connectivity work. They've done maps, they've done everything extensive, ready to go. And I would concur that this should be a high priority item that moves forward. So thank you, Stephanie. I'm sorry. I am tired. I failed to bring this forward tonight, and it was on my mind. So thank you.
Mahalo, Susie. Mahalo, Stephanie. Yes, I definitely want to concur. We did have conversations around bringing Patty in to help educate and inform you AC members about the extensive research. And certainly we see that in that priority responses that is still up on the screen that Miriam had shared, that 4.3.3.8 talks about that create connectivity alignments, between subdivisions and things like that. So it is definitely at the forefront of our mind. So being it now where there's, putting it to action on how that is, I think for those of us not familiar, bringing Patty and others in to have that conversation and to educate us more about that will definitely be one of the things that I think this committee would be advocating for. So
we agendize that as a Patty Pinto presentation on the next commission meeting, please.
Yeah, a nice segue, Susie, into so as we move forward then with agenda items for next meeting, let's put that at the top of our list then, is if you are able to, and I think once we secure, I think the date right now is Thursday, December 5th, 2024. So Susie, could you reach out to Patty again and see if she might be available?
Yes.
Mahalo.
Could you repeat the date one more time?
Thursday, December 5th, 2024.
Are we adding things to the agenda now?
Correct. Yes.
For next meeting.
For the next meeting. Yeah.
Okay. It was as on the minutes of last meeting that Orchid Land Neighbors was supposed to be on this meeting's agenda. So it didn't happen, so can we please put it on the December agenda? Is that a yes?
Yes. I mean, well, it's you're recommending it as a agendized item, so I think this.
8 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, will you arrange that, Martha? Is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna let them know in the next meeting?
Yes, I will talk to the people who are involved with Orchid Land Neighbors.
Okay. If you could then let either myself or Vice Chair Leilani know, or the staff as well, Covello or Miriam, then we'll make sure that gets on the agenda.
Well, please just plan on it. I don't really see what I have to do, because as I said, it was supposed to be on this night's agenda, and I don't even know why it got pushed off. So it's gonna happen. So we've waited. We were gonna do it today. Okay?
Can you have the women from Orchid Land Neighbors, can they send us the best contact information to get a hold of them? And if you have it tonight, if you could leave it with planning staff, that would be great to help us make sure we can have good communication with them.
Sure. Maybe you didn't get, we here that are present received a copy when Virginia gave her testimony, and it has the name, Orchid Glen Neighbors, and the address. So, and the email, We may have other, testimony about getting a water line, so that's the main effort.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any other items? Certainly we're deferring agenda item number 2, drafting letter support for conservation efforts, since committee member Kealoha is not here this evening, so we'll make sure that's being moved over as well. But might there be any other agenda items that we want to add?
Will we be continuing this conversation for agenda item number 3? Will that be an ongoing?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, Vice Chair.
I have an idea, another agenda item. I will try, if it's my responsibility, to try to reach the Department of Transportation, State Department of Transportation, to give us a timeline on when they're enlarging the roundabout at the Ainaloa intersection.
That's a good one. Yes, I think we'd all like to know when that will be happening.
Point of information. In April, Mr. Sniffen said that his timeline for the 2 additional roundabouts, not refurbishing Ainaloa, but the 2 additional roundabouts was 2027. At that April 2023 meeting, he also said he would not put any project on the list that he did not have funding for. Those 2, that was a very important statement. So, but the fact that we asked for an update. Yes, I know. The fact that we asked for an update, and that's on the agenda, and maybe lots of people will come, might to a benefit to that effort. Chris Todd is the representative, and he's also the head of the transportation committee.
Representative Chris Todd.
Yes, he would know, or should know, that timeline, or should be able to get it from Mr. Smith. I don't know about that.
All right, so it looks like we have a full agenda for our next meeting. We have 5 items. Any others from the action committee members? No? All right, well, if anyone has any other agenda item ideas, just email the CDP team, cdp@hawaiicounty.gov, either myself or Corp Counsel as well. So anyone can send to still add agenda items for our next meeting on Thursday, December 5th. Couple of announcements. The upcoming Ke'au Volcano Town Hall meeting will be on October 9th, 2024. I think some of you might have seen, we've got invites from 5 to 6:30 at Mountain View Elementary School. Senator Joy San Buenaventura, Councilmember Kaneali Kleinfelder, and Representative Capella will be discussing issues, including infrastructure, transportation upgrades, housing policy, agriculture, and the upcoming 2025 legislation. So if you haven't had a chance, you can actually still RSVP and register. So I'm hoping we can put that in, or there is a bit.ly Ke'au Town Hall website address.
Would you repeat the time for Mountain View? October 5, that was what I got.
No, October 9.
Sorry.
I'll send it to you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Yeah. The next thing is Senator Joy San Buenaventura e-newsletters can be found, and we have the link within our agenda. So if you want to find out more information from Senator Buenaventura, there is the link to learn more about what's happening. And then lastly, the planning department is currently seeking applicants for the Puna CDP Action Committee and is requesting assistance to get word out to our interested community members. So the application can actually be found on the mayor's website. So for those that have been and are willing to, as you can see, be at these meetings for 2 hours long and be passionate as well about what's happening in our communities, please visit the mayor's website and put your name in for serving on the Puna CDP AC. With that, does any of the committee members or staff have any other announcements to make?
Nothing from planning at this time. Thank you so much.
Mahalo, Chair Kanoy.
Mahalo, everyone. Thank you so much again. At this point, then I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. The meeting has adjourned at 7:19 p.m.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Have a good evening, everybody. Mahalo nui.
Weho.
Aloha.